The restaurant was my mother's choice. Private room, soft lighting, the kind of place where servers speak quietly and everyone feels slightly overdressed. 30 candles, a neat speech prepared in her head, I'm sure. The kind of night meant to prove to outsiders and to herself that our family was solid. I remember noticing how carefully she'd arranged the seating. Dad beside her, my sister across from me at the end of the table, close to the door. It didn't feel symbolic at the time, just practical. The first half hour passed easily enough. Toasts, polite laughter, stories I'd heard before, reshaped to fit the audience. I was already bracing myself for the usual comments about how grateful I should be, how lucky. That was familiar terrain. Then my mother tapped her glass. She smiled the way she does when she thinks she's being brave. "I think," she said, "since you're 30 now, it's time for the truth." The room went still in that way that only happens when people sense a line is about to be crossed, but don't yet know how far. "You were never really part of this family," she continued. "We adopted you because it made financial sense. The tax benefits were generous back then." My sister laughed, not loud, more like a reflex. Dad looked down at his plate and adjusted his napkin. For a second, my body did exactly what it had learned to do growing up: shrink, dissociate, let the moment pass over me, and clean up whatever mess was left behind later. But something else had been building for years, quieter and steadier. I didn't cry, I didn't ask why, I didn't argue. I stood up. The chair scraping against the floor sounded louder than it should have. I remembered noticing that, and the strange calm that came with it, like my nervous system had finally decided there was nothing left to protect. "Funny," I said, reaching into my bag. "I have some truth, too." The envelope wasn't dramatic. Plain, manila, slightly worn at the edges from being handled and rehoused too many times. I hadn't planned to use it that night. I'd brought it anyway. Inside were copies, not originals. Adoption records, financial statements, a letter from a lawyer, another from a government agency. Things I'd collected slowly, carefully, after realizing that confusion was being used against me. I didn't read them aloud. I didn't need to. "I found out a few years ago," I said evenly, "that some of the benefits you claimed were never legal, and that some of the accounts opened in my name when I was a child are still active." My sister stopped smiling. "I'd tried to handle it privately," I continued, looking at my mother now, "but since we're sharing truths in public, I thought it was fair to mention that there's an open review. I was advised not to interfere." Dad finally looked up. There it was. Not rage, not vindication, just consequence entering the room. My mother started speaking quickly, her words overlapping themselves. Explanations, reframing, outrage at my timing. The manager appeared at the door, alerted by the shift in volume. A moment later, a call came through on her phone. She stepped out to take it. She didn't come back. The server cleared plates in silence. No one touched the cake. Dad asked me very quietly why I hadn't told him. "I did," I said. "You didn't hear it." That was the closest I came to accusation. I paid my share of the bill. I hugged no one. On the way out, the hostess wished me a happy birthday, and meant it. In the weeks that followed, the family narrative collapsed in on itself. My sister stopped calling. Dad sent a few messages that tried to smooth things over without acknowledging anything specific. My mother moved in with a friend temporarily. No apology came. None was expected. What surprised me was not the loss, but the absence of chaos. No dramatic aftermath, no shouting matches, just a slow reorganization of reality, like furniture being removed from a room you didn't realize was too crowded to breathe in. I still think about that dinner sometimes, not with anger, more with curiosity, about how long I mistook endurance for belonging, about how easily gratitude becomes a leash when it's demanded instead of offered. I didn't win anything that night. There was no celebration, no sense of triumph. But when I walked home alone, the quiet felt earned, and for the first time, it felt like mine.